Hello, everybody. Is that right? G'day, my name's Reese Vitano, and it's really weird to think that it was 12 years ago I was sitting in that seat, because I got to tell you, I don't feel like I'm 12 years ahead. I still feel like I'm probably in high school and I've got so much more to learn before I kind of make it where I need to make it. But it was kind of really interesting when Alexia sort of said, you know, we need you to give a presentation about all your films. And I was like, oh yeah, I kind of have done quite a lot since school. But anyway, my presentation today is going to be on narrative film. I do, as Alexia said, dabble in video art, and I'm doing documentaries. I do a lot of corporate work to pay the bills. But today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my process of telling stories. So I loved film, I loved art, and I loved drama at high school. They were my two favorite subjects. I just loved going to those, and I could do well at them. I really enjoyed being the center of attention in drama class, and I really liked just going out of my way and just making crazy things on the canvas. As I developed a bit more through high school, I realized what I actually really loved was telling stories. That's what I loved about the drama. And I loved just aesthetics, just composition, just the simple nature of arrangement. And so those kind of things made me think, okay, maybe I'm actually interested in film, and I like film. So what I did in school, unfortunately, film or photography, nothing was offered at my school. This is a little while ago, so we didn't have any facilities for filmmaking. There was no media subjects, and yeah, nothing to assist me. So I had to go out and with my own McDonald's pocket money, buy myself a video camera. And so I spent my personal time making films, just filming the stuff around school. I made little silly films at school with my mates. We filmed the presentations and made those end of school videos that you all sit and think are cheesy. That was kind of me just at least learning how to use the camera and learning what it can do. It wasn't until, after school, I'd also make films with my mate. We actually would go up to his bedroom, we'd turn his whole lounge room into a set. And I don't know if you ever remember Cheese TV. I don't know if it's around your time. We'd kind of make these really daggy TV shows. But yeah, when my mates went off to study physics and nutrition, I kind of knew I didn't really want to go to university and do anything like that. I instead, when I finished school, took off to London. I was 18, just jumped on a plane, disappeared, and started traveling. And I just thought I'd just sort of see what the world is, see what is out there, and broaden my knowledge. So for me, the most important thing, though, when I was traveling, was that I kept notepads. I think I've got a lot of them. These are some that I just found the other day, which were from London, these little tiny pocket notepads. I actually would travel a lot and just sit there on the train, and I really loved just looking out the window, drifting off, listening to a conversation of a couple sitting next to me on the train, writing it down, being a bit of a voyeur, and just observing how the world worked and how relationships worked. And I really enjoyed that, and it's something I guess I could do on my own and I could feel satisfied with. And so I kind of, let me see if I can actually bring up another picture as well. Is that, sorry if I hit space. Sorry, we've already seen my little excerpt.
It's really quite a simple procedure.
So we don't need to worry about that. That was my film. But yeah, so I found these, I took a photo of them. There's just a few notepads. There's all bind books there as well, which is notes and notepads. But lots of little things there. Just ideas, observations. And I really encourage everyone here to do the same thing, is to go out and, I guess, observe and to keep notepads, because observation, I think, is one of the starting points of good filmmaking. You need to be able to see the world. You need to be able to observe what is happening, and not just on see someone fallen over there or see that there's a crazy man on the bus. You got to observe all the details around him. What has possibly the setting on a very visual level, but then I like to observe and think, well, why is this person doing this? Where does it come from? you need to see, if someone's doing something bad, you kind of observe them and see, well, why are they doing that? Because no one ever wants to do anything bad. Believe it or not, no person on the earth really wants to do bad. They all are trying to do something good in their head, but it's probably bad for everyone around them. So I'd like to take notes and just sort of, collate them. And this is a great thing to have. So when you go to sit down on a lazy Sunday afternoon, you start writing and you're like, oh, what am I going to write? You know, sometimes I've sat there and I've wrote, and I've gone, wow, look at this amazing thing I spent all day writing. And then I come back next week, I'm like, what the is this? It makes no sense. It's not real. This isn't believable. This is something I've made up in my head. You know, and all it is really two Reeses talking to each other, and it's not really interesting. So it always helps for me to have those notepads to go, okay, I'm going to throw this crazy man on the bus, I'm going to throw him in this scene and see what reality I can bring to it. So it's a really good thing to have notepads and to document for me at the starting point, but also once a project goes on. So once you start building up a project or a film, for me, I like to go back to those notepads and think, oh, what extra characters are missing, or what depth is missing? Or, for example, one of my films, I'm going to show you actually first.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, all good, just as we planned. Yeah, is the gate unlocked? Hello? Fuck!
So yeah, that there is an observation. Can anyone guess what I did for a job for 8 years through university? I dressed up as superheroes. I dressed up and I was a children's entertainer. So I had already had this character. It was me. And an experience happened to me which led to the start of that film and where it goes. But the best thing was I was going to children's birthdays 5 or 6 times a weekend, up to 10 in the summer when it got really busy. And I was in these houses and I was exposing myself to all these stories. Every time there was a strange kid who would do something really bizarre, there was a parent who was like out of their mind, or there were like people who would like say, I've left the front gate unlocked, and then you try and open it and you're stuck out there dressed in a superhero outfit, not being able to get into a party. It's really kind of all these little observations, these little things that are kind of a bit funny, but they're real. And so for me, it really helped to, as the project was going, as I was working on this script over about a year or two I worked on that script, I could just sneak in bits and pieces of reality. I always encourage you to observe. These days I often leave my bag at home or something happens and I usually take notes on my phone, and I just encourage you, maybe as soon as you get home, if you've taken a note on your phone because you don't have your notepad with you, go home and write it, because the amount of times you sit there and you're editing on your phone and you're rewriting, before you've even finished thinking what you've thought, you sit there and you're changing it. I think there's a process that when you're writing and you're thinking on a piece of paper, you cut loose and you can go and then you finish and then you come back and you look at what you've written rather than going, oh, I'm going to change that. But yeah, okay. So moving along. after all these observations and all these things came to mind, I guess I needed a bit of experience. So I moved back from London and I decided to go to university, Macquarie, and then Sydney University, studying film. But I'm just going to say that 90 to 95% of everything I've learned has not been at school or at university. University and the film schools are great. They give you so much information. But I think what you'll find is that a lot of the stuff you'll find through trial and error. Well, at least me. I've made so many mistakes. Every film, there's a mistake. Everything I do, I make a mistake and I remember for the next time. It's those little mistakes. You also learn little, great little helpful hints for next time. You observe some people, the way they act, and you take that. And that's stuff you can only learn on your own. So if you're going to go off and study film or narrative film at school, that's great. Just keep in mind, cameras, as we spoke, the Super 8 camera, cameras change, editing tools change, all the stuff, those technical things that you will learn will change. So you have to teach yourself at home on the internet. So I just encourage you to really just experiment and learn in your bedrooms. Okay, so moving along. Have I got the next picture? Oh, there's a space. There's a missing picture. Oh, there it is. No, sorry, there it is. Cool. Filmmaking for me is a puzzle. The stuff you see at the end is the very last process, last thing of a very long and confusing process. It's a kind of puzzle where you need to actually create every single piece of the puzzle by hand yourself, and then you have to figure out where it fits in. So this is a little thing I have on my study room wall just to help me out, and it's just a whole bunch of notes, ideas. Sorry, these are all kind of like diagrams that you can't quite read, but there's sort of, on the top level, you look at a film and how it's going to progress, and then the scene, how it's going to progress, then a character, how it's going to progress. These are all little things, so every time I go to sit down and write, I go look at this wall and go, is this fitting in with this part of the puzzle? Does it fit in here? And then I sticky more blue tack up there and put my notes next to it. But for me, it's a puzzle. And the puzzle, I guess, over the years, what I've sort of found out, is based around 3 C's. Everyone has like it's the 5 S's of filmmaking, or it's the 10 Z's of filmmaking, or it's something. I've sort of figured my own that there are 3 C's I care about. Well, actually, that's one of them. The 3 C's you need is care, convince, and change. So whenever I'm sitting down and I'm trying to write, whenever you're watching, an audience is watching a film, first of all, they need to care. They need to actually care about what's going on. If you go into a movie and you sit down and you're not even caring about the work, then it's not going to get any further than there. So the first thing you need to make people care about what you're doing and what's going on in front of them. Then you need to convince them what's happening is believable, it's real, that it can actually happen. You don't want them to go, oh, this is not real, it's Transformers 12. And then you need to, after you've convinced them, you need them to change. I think all art, every artwork, the point of it is to take you from what you were thinking before to thinking something new after. You need to be in one state, and I think a work needs to change you as an audience in some way so that you walk away feeling like you've learned something. There's nothing worse than walking out of a film going, I don't feel any different to how I went into there. So, okay, excellent. So yeah, cool. So, change. I start with change. Yeah, so how do I put this care, convince, change in? I go the other way around. I start when I'm making. I think about change first. I want to ask, what is the change that I want an audience to feel? I'm looking at a film and I go, okay, I want my audience to feel something. What is it? So I start at the very top line there. You can't quite see the story world, and that's kind of a way of mapping out how things change. So here's an example. I made a film, you saw it earlier, it's called All Bottled Up. This is a film where a boy bottles his emotions so much that he actually gets bottles inside his belly. He actually gets this disease where his body fills up with bottles, and he gets sicker and sicker and sicker. And he says nothing's wrong to his girlfriend. He's like, everything's fine, there's nothing wrong with me. But she kind of can sense something's going on. And she's at the same time trying to figure out what's going on inside him, and she does all these things. until eventually one day he kind of blows. So I guess I'll just keep talking while it's playing. So for me, I guess I thought this was a great idea that for a film to start with, to have a guy who has bottles inside him, because I'm always bottling things up and bottles. It was a great idea, but you probably know good ideas don't make good films. There's a lot of great ideas out there and they're terrible films. So I had to sort of start and look at it and say, where's the drama? And the drama actually is in this change. This boy at the end who's going to explode, and how he gets to this state, how he gets to the point where he's going to actually blow. So I've figured it out that what the change is for this is kind of, I want him to expose everything at the end. That's what the end needs to be. And I just need to figure out what's going to lead him to this explosion. And I kind of knuckled down and I figured out it's dishonesty. Dishonesty is what leads him to this exposure, this revealing of his inner self. So there's a change. So yeah, he's struggling. She's trying to get the bottles out from him. Yeah, cool. This film, all this stuff that was happening, was, like I said, the end product of a very complex puzzle. I can kind of show you a little bit of what the one looked like for this, rather than you watching him vomit bottles for another 5 minutes. As enjoyable as it is. Oh, there's the picture over the top. Okay, you can kind of see. That big wall-sized chart, I kind of broke it down. I put it into something I could communicate with my actors. And that's kind of what it looks like. It's a mess. You can see I've not only had the change at the start from the emotions, what they change on the whole film. There's notes on what change happens within each scene. Then there's notes on what happens within each character. I've also graded the light pink to the dark pinks to say that at the start of the film, I want the film to be really pastel pinks and blues. The characters are going to be wearing pastels. By the climax, they're going to be wearing really dark pinks and blues. And I wanted that kind of effect to happen. So I made these really wacky kind of charts that help me communicate with the actors and with myself. Okay, let me stop all. Okay, how am I going? My time is, yep, 6, okay. All right, let me just quickly, we talked about Instagram and social media before. I'm just going to quickly say a lot of people use social media terribly. They use it in very antisocial ways. Social media is a great tool. And as a filmmaker, I use social media as a tool, as a creative tool, not as something to talk to people. Most people won't even see my social media, which is, I don't know, not very social. But what I found, there are good ways to use it. Instagram, for example, it tags where you've been, and it gives you times, and it gives you all this data of where you've taken your photo. That's really good. I'm out and I'm walking down the street and I see this beautiful sunset and this street, and I'm like, wow, that's great. I take a photo, bang. I've got a full record of a place that I can come back and film one afternoon. I can go there and I can be like, great, I have this idea for a street, and I'll go to my Instagram and I'll check it out. It's a location scouting tool. Pinterest is a creative tool as well. It helps you kind of just go and scour for images all online. So this is just all films, and I just build up a mood board of great films and images I've seen, and all of a sudden I've kind of got these reference points when I'm writing my scene. Okay, what was the composition here? What was that? So using social media is really good. I just suggest you don't bother using it for social purposes. Okay. Auditions. So you kind of map out this thing and you get your actors in. You're talking about change, and then the next thing after change was we need to then convince our audience. So this is where you need actors, convincing actors, people who can express change. So when I get an actor in and I audition them, I get them up on the screen like this. She's going to kill me if she knows I'm doing this. But I get them up on the screen and I read out a whole bunch of actions to them and ideas. And I want to see, on a nice, minute scale like this, the change that's happening in their face. And is it believable? So you want to see, you'll see so many actors who will overexpress or underexpress. I think this is a way I work where I really want to analyze the minute details of a face that changes. This way, I know the characters are convincing, the actors are convincing, and it's going to make the audience convinced of my plight. I'm going to skip right down. Oh, that's notes. Okay, so that deaf film, sorry, I'll skip across it, but that film at the start with James Tobin and that deaf actress, she's actually deaf. I had to communicate all these changes and all my ideas with her. I didn't learn Auslan. I said I was going to, and all of a sudden I'm on set and I don't know how to do anything except for thank you. So I had to communicate via notes, and a lot of these notes were very just direct notes, actions about change. Okay. Cool, jumping along. Okay, ooh, that went in twice, did it? Oh, it's not loading. There it is. Okay, so again, I haven't even written a script yet. Before I even write the dialogue or what's happening, I used to write lots of dialogue, and I found out, you know what, it's hard, it's terrible. And no offense to all the good Australian filmmakers out there, but I haven't really found a good Australian filmmaker who can write dialogue. So I decided I'm not going to write dialogue, I'm not going to write he said, she said. I'm just going to make these charts of emotions and changes, transitions, and I'm going to just give these to the actors so that when we get onto a set, I'm going to say, let's go from this change to this change. I want you to kind of pick up this and maybe just change to this. And so, this is a scene I did. There's no sound, and it was done without me giving them any lines. I gave them no dialogue to say. I just gave them a bunch of changes and actions to do. And I believe these guys look 100% more authentic, believable, convincing than anyone I've ever worked with before. And these guys I met that day, sat them down, gave them a few things, and just said, hey, can you try and do this? And it's believable. Why? Because they're putting themselves into it. They're doing the emotional part. They're doing the acting. They're doing all the human things that they do instinctively, which is great. That's more convincing. I just have to then give them the storytelling kind of principles, which is, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Forgive me, I'm rambling, and I've only got 2 more minutes. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to jump right down. Cool, so yeah, filming. Finally do some filming. And yeah, when it comes to filming, it actually is so easy. Like I said, I've never met these people. I just set up my camera, and I got something pretty good for 2 hours down in the park. Why? Because I'd done so much puzzle solving prior. I'd put all the pieces in. I knew that I wanted this action here and there and there, and it just falls into place. The filming is actually the easiest part of the filmmaking narrative process. It's the final product. Okay?
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Nearly 60 years after its first.
Okay. And then, I was going to just talk about, just briefly, filmmaking. I've done it in narrative form, but it doesn't have to be such a struggle. This is a commercial I'm working on for Dick Smith. I've managed to take my storytelling abilities and make money from it. So this idea of you've got to choose a creative path or you've got to choose an artistic path, I just kind of wanted to say you don't have to choose either one. They can both help each other. You can make creative films for corporate clients, for big advertising people that will help you make creative works for yourself and for your own peace of mind. Yeah, this is just a television that kind of comes to life and tries to find some friends. Yeah, that's about all I got time for, folks.